Hey there guys, we're taking a look at the Division 2 running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. Now the game is currently running with these settings set to the lowest possible settings for the most part at 1080p, and we're going to be looking at the in-game benchmark right now. Before we jump in and actually look at some gameplay, so let's jump into the benchmark right now. This is one of the things that I appreciate the most of Ubisoft games for the most part, is that they all come in with built-in benchmarks. Now they're mostly good for just making comparisons between hardware, but it is also good at telling you at least a baseline of how things are going to perform. And as you can see here at 1080p, well, we're getting some pretty decent averages at the start here. It's those 1% lows that really drag everything down. Of course, we are running into a very hard RAM limit here, but of course, it's really affecting the 1% lows, as it always seems to do. And that's really going to make the experience of playing this at 1080p kind of difficult to do. I mean, even right now, the 1% lows have only improved up to 14. So we're no longer in single digit territory, but it is still very much in unplayable territory. This isn't really too surprising to me. I was kind of expecting to go into this game with 1080p being in fact worse than this. So if anything, this is kind of surprising to me, and it makes me think that maybe if we had more RAM, we might actually be able to play this at 1080p 30 FPS. And if that's the case, that's actually kind of more impressive than anything else. Considering the type of game that this is, it being able to run at all at 30 FPS at 1080p would actually be impressive. So we'll see with the RAM upgrade if that's actually going to happen or not. Maybe I'm taking a big hit of the old copium here, but maybe, just maybe, we would be able to do 1080p 30 here. Now 720p provides us an overall better experience because the 1% lows are now at the 30 FPS territory, which is perfectly fine for this kind of game, and the averages are comfortably above 60, where you're going to have a very rock solid experience while playing this. Which again makes me think that it might just be the RAM limitation that was holding us back at 1080p, because of the fact that the 1% lows here do get a nice bump, the averages get a nice bump, but overall there is still a big difference between the averages and the 1% lows here. While this isn't going to be the worst experience to play like this, it's still a wide variance that it makes it so that when there are those moments that it drops, it's going to be just a little bit more noticeable than most other things. Remember, one of the things that improves the gaming experience the most is having as low of a gap between your 1% lows and your averages. Unfortunately, here the 1% lows are pretty much half of the averages, which means that is kind of a major drop off. But in general, it's just a much more playable experience. I mean, just visually, it looks so much smoother than it did at 1080p, which of course makes sense. 1080p was really just at the territory where it would be in some points a slideshow. It's funny to think that I used to play games at 15 frames per second. I mean, that's what the original Battlefront, as in the very old original Battlefront, I used to play that at 15 frames per second. So I mean, this game running like this is actually pretty impressive. But like I said, in-game benchmarks only tell you so much, and they're mostly good for hardware comparisons. When actually looking at what the game will run while jumping into the game is going to be the best way to see that. And the performance level that we're getting here is very similar to what we were getting in the benchmark, in that we're getting some pretty decent averages, though not very high ones. But 44 FPS is pretty decent, but the 1% lows of 24 are kind of a dip. But overall, I mean, you can actually play the game like this. It's just not going to be an incredible experience. Still, this is overall a better experience than what I was actually expecting to get out of this game, and for sure maybe upgrading the RAM would actually start to get us some playable experiences here. Although this is already pretty playable, it's those 1% lows that really drag down the experience. It's a shame that this game really never got the full update to actually fix DirectX 12 in this game. It has DirectX 12 as the render API as an option, but it has always been buggy. It never got patched to actually be a functional, viable option. It's kind of just permanently stuck in this experimental phase. So that could help us improve these 1% lows by actually utilizing the CPU more effectively. Unfortunately, that is just not an option here. All we can really do is try to brute force it through DirectX 11, and in that situation, this iGPU just really is not powerful enough for that. So overall, it is playable at 720p. 1080p is out of the question, but really it all just depends on whether or not this is going to be an acceptable gaming experience for you. There is at least less variance between the 1% lows and the averages, though they are still kind of low, that I feel like a lot of people might be put off by this. But honestly, I feel like you put this in front of most people without an FPS counter and they could probably get away with playing the game. So really, it just all depends on your tolerances. But anyways, I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.